Former President Donald Trump has named Ohio Senator JD Vance as his running mate for the 2024 presidential election. And this comes after a pivotal weekend for Trump, the assassination attempt on the former president, providing a reason for new voices to come forward in support. Here with more on the presidential race, let's get to Fletcher School of Law and Diplomacy lecturer Gautam Mukunda. Gautam, thank you for being here. So we just got this news about JD Vance. You write and talk and think a lot about leadership here. So I'm curious, first of all, what you make of this choice from that perspective.
It's my pleasure. The leadership in general, and the presidency in particular. My last book was on the presidency, actually. So, I mean, one can only imagine JD Vance's feelings right now. Right? For Mike Pence, Donald Trump's last vice presidential nominee, it was being picked as Donald Trump's vice president was a life-altering and very nearly a life-ending experience. So Vance must be feeling quite excited. In terms of electoral strategy, essentially this pick signals that Trump has abandoned whatever attempts he might have been making after the assassination attempt to try and be a unifying figure. Like, those lasted for about a day, and they're over now. It is impossible to imagine a less unifying figure than JD Vance. When it happened, I was texting with some Republican friends of mine, and one said, well, I guess the vice presidential debate will be JD Vance versus JD Vance. Just to put this in context, there's been a lot of criticism of the rhetoric where opponents of Donald Trump have attacked him. You know, they've called him cultural heroine or a con man or America's Hitler. And those are all things that JD Vance said about Donald Trump. So there are going to be some fascinating discussions about that.
Gautam, it tells, I wonder if it tells you that Trump is saying that with this pick, he's basically suggesting he's just so confident that he's got this thing locked up, really, because, you heard those chatter. A lot of folks were sort of suggesting, well, if Trump wants to reach more independents, moderates, suburbanites, he's got to go with, a Rubio, a Scott, Youngkin, someone, a different candidate. To me, this just says I can go with the candidate who maybe, I don't know if you believe it. We were just talking to our colleague who was saying it's hard to see how Senator Vance brings new folks to the table who weren't otherwise already going to vote for Trump anyway.
I think that's right. I mean, so there are two theories here. One is Trump is just saying that I am so certain I'm going to win that it doesn't matter what I do. And the other is that Trump is making a judgment basically based on who has been the most sycophantic towards him. And I stand in awe of JD Vance's skills in that department. I honor him. It's been impressive to watch. And so what I would think about this is, if you think about so just views that Vance has expressed, right, in the relatively recent past, the voting issue that is most likely to have an impact on this election, everybody on both sides agrees, is abortion. JD Vance has supported a total national ban on abortion with no exceptions for any reason. Right? You cannot imagine a sharper contrast with the Democratic ticket. He has expressed in a statement that he said that he regretted that one of the results of the sexual revolution was that women were free to leave abusive marriages. And that's his phrasing, not mine. You are setting up by picking him, you're setting up an astonishing contrast. You were also bringing into play, I'll just note, Peter Thiel, who has been JD Vance's patron for basically his entire career since he left Yale Law School. It's hard to think about a modern sort of member of a ticket who has been so uniquely had as a patron a single individual. And I imagine Democrats are going to be looking quite closely at Peter Thiel and wondering what sort of attack ads they can craft from that as well.
Well, and since you bring up Thiel, I think it makes sense also to bring up the other endorsements that Trump collected over the weekend from Bill Ackman and from Elon Musk. Not that either of them was particularly surprising, but again, it highlights sort of the business leaders who are willing to put their money and their support behind Trump. What do you make of that dynamic in the race?
So it is striking, right? So I always tell my students that when you're trying to understand an event, the most important thing you need to understand is base rates, right? So what is what you would normally expect the rate to be? So the base rate is almost all corporate leaders are Republican. That shouldn't surprise us, right? Most major company CEOs are Republican. Most major senior leaders on Wall Street are Republican. They are. Like that's just historically always been true. The Republican Party is the party of financial and corporate elite, and it has been since the day it was founded. And so what's really striking here is not that there are business leaders who are endorsing Trump. It's how few have. As my friend and colleague Jeff Sonnenfeld pointed out, up until Elon Musk endorsed Donald Trump, the number of Fortune 100 CEOs who would endorse Donald Trump was 0. Right? For Mitt Romney, the number was, I believe, in the 40s. So that's a pretty striking difference, right? Like we've gone from 0 to 1. You can sort of dive into the particular questions as to why individual people have done it, right? What might have driven Musk? What might have driven Ackman? And, you can hear lots of gossip surrounding either of them about what that, and, gossip is worth what you pay for it, so that may not mean anything. But the most striking thing about corporate support for Trump is not how much there is, but how little, which is really surprising for any Republican nominee.
Gautam, it's great to get your perspective as always. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you.